Hey y'all, welcome to the Swan's Nest. My name is Dr. Nichole Hardy Swann, and we are here to talk about all things psychology. Today I am joined by Peralta Rolka. Did I do that right? And Anna is a student studying psychology at Georgia Institute of Technology, Georgia Tech. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to be a student studying psychology, what her next steps might be, and some of the experiences she's hoping to gain while she's going through the grad school process and entering the career.
Yeah. I'm Anna. Like you said, I go to Georgia Tech. I'm majoring in psychology. I'm getting a minor in biology and Spanish too. And then I'm just out here for the summer doing an internship, doing a couple of different things. And then once it's over with the summer, I go back to Georgia.
And this isn't your first time doing an internship in the related field, right?
No. I did this last year as well. And so a lot of what I did last year was I did like behavioral therapy with kids with autism. So, yeah.
Nice. It's so interesting because you're entering the field through a degree and a major in psychology. I didn't take a psychology class until I got into grad school. So I think there are so many different ways to get there. Yeah. I was a history major and I had a French minor. But I felt like that was a great experience because it helped me learn how to tell the histories and the stories of people. And that's a lot of what I do in my practice. So I was saying, like, I was a history major and a French minor, and so that helped me like learn how to write the stories and the histories of people. And that's been really helpful in, my experience of what I do in my practice doing testing psychology and report writing, because I can craft the narrative of people's experiences. Tell me a little bit more about like what your specific interests are in the field of psychology.
Well, I feel like, I'm still a student, so I'm still kind of like learning all of these different things, and like at Tech they do a really great job of like making sure that you can have so many different classes where you get so much exposure to different types of psychology, like statistics or cognitive or other such things. And so I'm still kind of like learning my little niche, but like I have absolutely loved being like the hands-on portion of psychology and like meeting the kids, meeting families, like all of that, and just like learning different ways to help people and like give them the tools that they need to like really run through life the way that they want to and like be happy and successful in what matters to them.
So it's like when the theoretical goes to the practical application. Yeah, it's just, that's the piece that you like. It's like, wow, I'm getting to apply the knowledge that I've amassed and spent time kind of learning.
Yeah. And then I learned like, all of these different things in class, and I'm like, I start noticing it in my daily life, and I'm like, oh, that's sad, and that's the other thing, and that's great.
Look at this intrusive thought. Yeah. I know what kind that is.
Do you know you do this because of that? Stuff like that. So it's great.
It's neat. And I think everyone, psychology is so relevant to every single person, and it has meaning in what we do in our everyday lives. And so I think you and I have also talked about like neuropsychology and that being an interest and a passion of yours as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it that you enjoy about neuropsychology?
I guess as I've grown up, I've noticed that I really like biology, and I really just like learning about the brain itself and like why it does what it does and like why that makes us do what we do. And so I kind of just really love being able to link like biologically what's going on in our brain, and then being able to apply that to the behaviors that I'm seeing, and then like vice versa. And I'm like, well, how can I help somebody who's having that like brain behavior, like misconnection or, something like that? Like, how can I help them? So
it's so interesting. We explore the brain the same way we kind of explore space. Like there are so many things that we kind of theorize are going on, and it's still in so many ways uncharted territory. Like we're finding out new and exciting things all the time. I mean, neuroplasticity being one of these things that's like a hot topic.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you can regenerate or grow new pathways. It's like, yeah. And let me show you how.
Right.
No, I think that's great. And full disclosure, like I grew up a Georgia Tech fan. Our family's always been Georgia Tech fans. And most people think of Georgia Tech as like this engineering school. What is it? How is it different or do you think is unique about studying psychology at Georgia Tech?
Well, I think one of the biggest differences, and I think like you and I have talked about this too, right? Because I remember you telling me like, or I guess I've told you like, oh, I have to take calculus up to Calc 2. And, I have to take a statistics class, which I did.
And Jason took like differential equations, my husband.
Yep. And like I've done linear, which like we learn is like applicable in statistics later on, and all these other things. And we have to take coding classes. So I'm learning, like I know up to 2 coding languages, like not like fluently, but I'm getting there.
Right.
So, and you've mentioned that like in your training, you didn't quite have that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's one of like the biggest differences between like going or learning psychology at an engineering school versus not an engineering school, or one where it's not like the major focus, is that like I get a lot more emphasis in maths and statistics, and I have a really good basis in that before I go into grad school, which all of that becomes really, really important. A lot of our humanity, like we were mostly like humanities kind of university that I went to. I went to Stanford University, and so again, but I didn't take any psych classes while I was there. I heard a lot about them. They sounded really great. But I think that, the focus, I think, when I hear you speaking about your experience is a lot more on the cognitive piece too. And with engineering and sort of the way that, information technology works and thinking about cognitive psychology and pathways in which we develop cognition and how the brain works, like those things being really unique experiences that you can get at Georgia Tech that you probably can't get at most places. No, you're absolutely right. Like we just get a bunch of different perspective on it, which I think in the long run is going to be really helpful. I think.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to have a really good basis in like cognition and, all that other good stuff. So,
and again, I think it's what you make of your experience, like, and what you have exposure to. So that's really neat. And that informs your worldview and your perspective as a clinician going in the field.
Yep.
What are some things that you've been doing this internship with us, and kind of like dipping your toes in a couple of different areas of what it means to be someone in a position of helping others, whether it's in psychology or ABA or speech pathology or OT. You've gotten exposure to a lot of those fields. And so what have you noticed about your experience, like what it means to be a practitioner?
I feel like that's a hard question. I think that like one of the most important things about being a practitioner is to be present and like really focus on understanding, because I feel like once you understand why a kiddo is doing something, or like maybe why OT or speech is important, then that can really help them more.
Mm-hmm.
And so like as you mentioned, like I'm doing like the ABA, and so like we have to learn about like the functionality of certain behaviors, so why they're occurring. And so with that, like I get to learn why a kiddo is engaging in something, and then that way we can help them like figure out a new way to express what they want, what they need, all of that other stuff
to get their needs met.
And then like that's also where like the speech can come in. It's like, okay, they speak a certain way, or they use language that might not be in their best interest, or not like be the best way to get what they need. And so how can we incorporate then speech to like help them so that they can communicate more effectively, and just like
and from a neurodiversity affirming perspective, to help others better understand them as well. And then bringing in occupational therapy, it's like, okay, and this behavior, the function of the behavior may be sensory in nature, so we can have speech help us make that communication connection, and then OT jumps in and says, and then this is how we can help make this better for them and get that sensory input they need. It's great, right? That collaboration model. And it just goes to show you can't know everything. It doesn't matter how much you study, what programs you're studying in, you're never going to know everything there is to know. And that's also the beauty of what we do in working within collaborative models. When you're an independent practitioner or solo practitioner, you're sort of like off on an island. And the thing I love about being in school is that you're getting so much exposure to, you know, new research. You're collaborating with your peers. You're developing a sense of your own like professional identity and making the mistakes along the way. But you're all passionate about the same sort of like main goal, which is to become that professional in the field and to really be helpful to others. And so it's just such a galvanizing kind of exciting experience. And that's why I go to conferences, so I can get that fix. I can keep that going sometimes. And I love working with others because they always teach me something new.
Yeah. No, I see that a lot in like you said, school, and then like the conferences, and then even here. I mean, like with the collaboration, I learn something new every day, and it's amazing.
I think the thing that I really want students to kind of understand is there's time. There's so much time to learn things. And as a clinician, I make so many mistakes. I'm always learning, and it's okay to make mistakes and be a human being. But as a student, you feel like there's this time pressure to get through certain things and to learn as much as you can. But learning should never stop.
Yeah.
And it will always continue. And so I've always been a big fan of just taking experiences as they come and the opportunities as they come. It's how I ended up in, you know, at Georgia Tech in France for a semester and then met my husband. You know, I mean, you just say yes to everything that comes across your path. And if you treat each experience as a learning opportunity or an opportunity to gain a skill, it's never an experience wasted.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some things that you think you kind of like are thinking about as you're entering your senior year of college and you're wanting to go to grad school? What are some things that you're coming up against that you have to get prepared and ready for?
I feel like there's a lot. Like there's it's almost like applying to college again, except this time it's more intensive, and
the standards are higher. The bar is raised.
And then that's like, you know, when the imposter syndrome sets in and you're like, oh my god.
That never goes away, by the way.
No, I didn't think so. But you know, I'm like trying to get ready, like, oh, how am I going to do interviews? Like, how am I going to like find the best fit for me? Because at the end of the day, like, I want to find a grad program that I'm gonna really enjoy, and that I can like be with people who I know are gonna share my goal and like, you know, help me with what I want to do. And so that's one of the other things that I'm thinking about. And then like I also have to consider like where I'm going to go, and like whether or not I'm going to like the city that I'm in, or, you know, like whether or not the college that I'm going to is going to have enough funding for me. And so those are all things that I'm like kind of in the back of my mind, and I'm like, oh, which teachers am I going to get to like recommend me? Am I doing enough research? Am I doing enough internship experiences? You know, am I getting published enough for, you know, all of these other things? And it all just kind of like comes at you really fast. And, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a lot.
That's making me anxious.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have to do that again. But it's also so exciting and so fun. I love the possibilities of like anything can happen. And again, like, there will inevitably be some surprises along the way. You may get to a program where you're interviewing and maybe it's not the program that you thought you wanted to would be your like highest ranked, but then you get in there and the vibe is right and it feels good and you're like, this is definitely what I want.
Yeah, no, I've definitely got to keep like an open mind through everything, and, you know, just like make sure that I like spread my wings as much as possible so that I can get like a good idea of like everything. Because like you said, I mean, I never know what I'm going to get until I'm there. And then once I'm there, I don't know. That's it.
So you're preparing for grad school. What are some of the things that they're asking you to provide in your application process?
Well, you know, they want resumes, they want CVs, they want to show, or they want to see what you've done. Like, you really need to have like research experience. Like, it'd be great to be published. You need to have internship experiences. They also require that you write essays, and so like the essays that you write are going to be school dependent, but like as far as like my research has shown, like there's every school requires at least one like overall essay, just kind of like talking about who you are, like what, like basically what would make you a good grad student. So like what research have you done, like why you're interested in the program, like talking about your experiences, all of that. And then, you know, there's other things that they need, like sometimes they need GRE scores, so that's almost like the SAT except for grad school, and you know, and other stuff like that. So
there's a lot.
Yeah.
And I think, so as someone who's been supervising for over a decade, I won't date myself specifically, but well over a decade, and who's run training programs and accredited training programs, and then who's also gone through the grad school application process themselves. I think there are some things that I would really kind of recommend. I like when you were talking about considerations for location. You have to only apply to schools in areas where you would want to live, noting that those with the best weather and the best kind of amenities are probably going to be the ones that are harder to get into, but being realistic about it. So when I was applying for my internships, anything that had the words lake effect in the forecast, that was out. No offense, I just knew I couldn't handle the weather there. And so that was something that I took into consideration. So definitely be thoughtful geographically. And if you feel like you need to open yourself up to maybe having some more schools that would be likely possibilities, being okay with living in places where that might not be something you necessarily, where you want to live long term. So location's important. I think when you're writing the essays, I've seen essays and sort of these introduction kind of essays come across my desk before where people are a little too disclosing. You want to keep it professional. We don't want to talk about our histories of trauma relating into why we want to work with people who maybe have experiences with trauma. You can talk about your passion for individuals who have, you know, a profound and prolonged history of traumatic experiences without being too disclosing. And that right there for me as a supervisor is really important because it gives me an indication of where people's boundaries are. And boundaries are incredibly important in the field of psychology. So those are some skills that you can hone over time, but there are also some skills that we should already have. So always looking at when we're writing our essays with that professional lens of being disclosing, but not too disclosing. The essay that I wrote on my internship application process was about gardening and trying to grow tomatoes in Florida. and I got lots of comments about that. It was great. So so that was something personal about me and that I enjoyed, but it wasn't too disclosing. It was appropriate. When it comes to choosing the program and writing about why you're interested in that program, do your research. Know who the clinicians are, who the professors are, what their areas of interest are, what research they're currently involved in, and what their focus is. And does it align with yours? If you're trying to make something fit that doesn't quite fit, it's probably not a good fit. Don't go there. So I think that that's really important. And these are likely going to be the same people who are interviewing you. So it's important to know a little bit about what they're studying and researching,
Right.
and what their area of focus is. So your plans.
Yeah.
Grad school. And then long term, you want to be?
Well, so I feel like I've got like a couple ideas like floating around in my head, and like we've talked about like neuropsychology, and so like ideally, or like at least what I have in my mind is, you know, I go to a grad school and do like a clinical neuropsych program, and then eventually like I do an internship or something like that, like really just kind of like find my niche. And then I have actually really enjoyed like the private practice of everything, because I don't know, like you have a lot of freedom in like what you can do, and then like you can help like set standards and like ethics and like really kind of like make sure that everything's going well and, you know, whatnot
In your community.
yeah, exactly. And like be really intentional with your community and stuff. And so I would absolutely like love to do something exactly like what you're doing, and have like some kind of like clinical neuropsych or just clinical psychology focus. And I've like originally I was kind of like skeptical about kids because I'm like, I don't know if I'm a kid person,
But then I got into kids and I'm like, wait, you guys are so funny. I love these little guys. They come out with some zingers.
Yeah. Where did you get that from?
You're humbled.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think that that's the thing. It's like, be open to alternative experiences because you just don't know where it's going to take you. And I think, you know, I've met people in our practice who work in exploration kids therapy and Swann Clinic who, you know, originally wanted to go and be a psychologist, and they ended up having exposure to behaviorism, and then now they're behavior analysts. Like, I have a couple of psychometricians who got a terminal master's degree in psychology, and depending on the state that you live in, you can get licensed as a psychologist at the master's level in that state. It's important to check out your state laws and the licensure regulations in each state. But you know, you can get a terminal master's degree if you don't want to go on and get student loan debt, and you can operate and run a practice in that fashion. There are opportunities with bachelor's degrees to work with, and I'm super passionate about working with disabled individuals, and so working in the disability realm, working in lots of different realms with just a bachelor's degree, doing like case management and working with getting people access to services that their families desperately need, and coordinating services in terms of like financial and daily living services, and just helping families make practical decisions to improve the quality of life of their children and themselves, and even mentorship, like working in mentorship with you know, what is it? It's trying to think. Swann Services is doing it. So we started a PASA where we're working with adults. So you do adult employment mentorship. So you can help adults with getting employment and maintaining employment when otherwise they wouldn't be able to do that. And that really just improves quality of life, and just it's so rewarding to watch people kind of fulfill their dreams and live their best lives. So there are a lot of options, and I think you don't know what's out there until you get into it. And so I would highly recommend, I know you did a gap year between high school and college. Like, if you're not sure what you want to do, or like you're like, I still want to know what else is possible, like at Exploration Kids and Swann Clinic, we love having students come in and just getting a sense of all the different disciplines that work in our programs. And so you get exposure to speech therapy and occupational therapy and social work and mental health counseling and testing psychology and the physical therapy, and you can get a sense of like what all the options are. And maybe that expands you and helps you find what your passion is. So I even think that even if you're in, you know, college right now and you're thinking you want to go to grad school, taking a gap year to get some experience, even if you're working in the front desk or, you know, wherever it is, all experience is good experience. See what's out there, take a chance, and try something new. And who knows, you might find the passion that you didn't know you had. You're wrapping up your internship here this summer. You've gotten exposure to so many different disciplines, speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, ABA therapy, BCBAs, testing psychology, mental health psychology. You've seen and met and interacted with students and interns in each of those fields with Exploration Kids Therapy and Swann Clinic. So you've gotten exposure to a lot. If you weren't to go into psychology and you were just to say, I'm going to try something different based on everything that you've seen, what would be the one that you would be like, okay, I could see myself going down this route?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I think I know. I'm curious what you think.
I mean, I could kind of see myself in any one of the positions.
Okay.
But I mean, oh my gosh, I think maybe speech.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know.
What have you seen? What have you seen with speech that you enjoy?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that I enjoy is that, like, I literally get to see kids like gain the ability to communicate. And it's like just such a beautiful thing, because I mean, I have literally seen kids who are nonverbal or who like speak one or two words, and then suddenly I have a parent saying, oh my gosh, my kid said a full sentence at home today, or like we hear them say a full sentence in clinic, and I'm like, oh my God, that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
You're giving children a voice.
Yeah. And then like we get to like help them use the language that they already have to like really kind of like hone in on it and like make sure that they're using it in the way that's going to be helpful for them, and that like others are going to be able to understand them, so that, you know, they can really go out into the world and like be able to be who they are.
I love that. And even if they're not speaking, you know, words, I think watching our speech therapists with the augmentative communication devices and helping kids be able to communicate in alternative ways is also just so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. No, we have so many kids at the clinic who have like their AAC devices, we call them voices.
Yeah.
And
here's your voice.
Yep. And like if they are nonverbal the whole time, that is totally fine. But like to see that kid gain the ability to communicate and like gain their voice just through an iPad is like incredible, because they can tell you, I'm hungry, I need a break, I want to play, like I need a hug, or like anything. And like to hear that verbally and non-verbally with a voice is just absolutely incredible to watch them gain that skill. It's beautiful.
It's unlocking something super special, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love that. And then I honestly thought you were going to choose occupational therapy.
Really?
I did, because when I see our OTs kind of doing the work that they're doing, I think it's so special to watch them work with kids with different genetic and conditions, with different, medical conditions and diagnoses, really working with a lot of the physical aspects. Some of our kids who struggle with mobility and helping them develop their sense of like being able to be more active and engaged in the world in a physical sense, I think is so incredible. And then I'm also always really fascinated by the sensory piece. And I've spoken to Nate a couple times. I'm like, oh, I cannot wait to see like what you like, how you're gonna like really expand out your knowledge when it comes to sensory processing, etc. So yeah, I really did think you were gonna choose OT.
I feel like it's definitely like a close second. I just think that each portion of it has its own like amazing portion to it.
Yeah.
It would just be so hard to pick any of the others.
And we have great. and I can definitely see like going into behavior analysis too, because it's like, wow, we get to really help families like restructure their environment and their help them develop ways to make their child more comfortable in the world and in the space, and to really unlock what it is that helps them kind of function and think and kind of move within the world. It's just, and to work and to watch, I think watching ABA specifically at Swann Clinic, what I love about Swann Clinic's ABA program is how it prioritizes the first thing that you learn about in the program is dignity. Number one.
Yeah.
And so always keeping assent and consent the main priority, and allowing kids to kind of like hold boundaries and tell you what they're comfortable with, when we know that like autistic and disabled children, their boundaries are so often violated, and unknowingly usually, but like they're so often violated. Watching that correction happen and watching ABA evolve as a field to be more neurodiversity affirming, and to really take in the voices of adult autistic individuals, take that feedback and put it out there in a way that honors the change that they're advocating for. I love that about the Swann Clinic experience.
Yeah. No, it's got to be one of the most important and like one of the best parts about it.
It blows my mind that doesn't happen in every program. I'm concerned. And you've had conversations with people in grad school where you've debunked some of those like ideas about what ABA is and can be. Yeah. And what are some of the things that you hear from your peers?
I feel like I hear a lot of like kind of different things, but I guess when I'm like speaking mostly about like ABA, I know that it has had a very long history.
That's problematic.
It's problematic and painful. And like a lot of the conversations I have are like, how is that changing, and like what that looks like in our clinic, and like how we're maintaining the dignity of the clients, like maintaining that it's assent based, and all of that stuff. And like it makes me like sad when people don't necessarily understand like how it works. And so I feel like maybe sometimes a misconception could be that like we're forcing the kids to do something that they don't want to do. And like that's not entirely the case. Like we work in things that we eventually need them to be able to do, like, you know, washing their hands, or telling us that they need a break, and we work that into like what they want to do. And so, like,
get them excited about it. Yeah. And using that positive reinforcement the way it's meant to be. And I think that's important, because these are not the experiences that every intern or every student has in every ABA program. And to be honest with you, the training programs, it's so important. Like Exploration Kids Therapy, we really work with helping train our occupational therapists, our speech therapists, our mental health counselors, and our testing psychologists in affirming practices, because I think that is the most important piece. Is we're meeting human beings who deserve dignity and respect, and how do we help improve their experience of this process so that it improves their lives, so that the therapies and the interventions that we're enacting really do make change. That is important. And if you're not honoring their voice and you're not respecting their boundaries, you cannot expect to make change. So I love that that's like what our program is built on, the beauty of neurodiversity.
And just like making sure that we're meeting individuals where they are.
Yeah.
I think that's just so important.
I love it. I know you've come to us from Georgia Tech. Georgia's different from Western Colorado.
A lot, yeah.
I'm also originally from Georgia, and, you know, I thought I'm a Southern girl through and through. And like I knew I was going to be born and die in Georgia, and that was it. And I love the South. And then, you know, Jason's like, I want to move to Colorado. I'm like, do they have a Chick-fil-A? Is there sweet tea? Like, what's the deal here? I know there's mountains. Okay, we'll try it out. And so we moved to Denver, and I thought, you know, okay, Denver, we're moving to the mountains. Denver is not the mountains. Not the mountains. And then we came out to Western Colorado for my birthday one year, and I was like, wow, this is it. Yeah. This is a hometown in Colorado. Like you have the mountains, you have the rivers, you have, you know, farms and rodeos and hippies. And it's just like, it's like the best of all the worlds, the hiking, the fishing, the skiing, the snowboarding. Like there's something to do every season.
Yeah.
When the aspens change, like it's absolutely stunning. It's like the mountains are on fire. Like it's just, it's glorious. And there's a hot air balloon festival every year that I go to. I have like all of the posters, and I love collecting them. But I also love like going to the rodeos, and then we have like these parades in our hometowns, and like, you know, your neighbors. And I love working in rural practice.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here talking about what Western Colorado means to me, but like what has been your experience out here in Western Colorado?
I feel like when I first came out here, it was definitely like a little bit of a shock.
Well, you're living in Atlanta.
Yeah.
In town.
And like Atlanta, you know, it's this huge city. And then like suddenly I come out here and I'm like, wait a second. Here's the airport, bro.
There's like 3 traffic lights.
Exactly. But no, like I actually did grow up in a more rural setting in Georgia. I was only like an hour outside of Atlanta. So I did have that exposure to like, okay, this is rural. Like, that's okay. It's fine. And like, I've actually really, really loved it. Like, Georgia will always be my home.
It'll always be home.
always. And like, that's where my parents are. And like, I know that when I go back, I'm always going to feel like I'm at home.
Yep.
But even though that I have probably lived here maybe a consecutive, when you put it all together, like 6 months, it also feels like home. It does. It really does. I mean, like, besides the fact that it's just like absolutely stunning, it you can make a community so easily out here, I think.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, like you said, there's always just like something to do, and like, you are never bored here.
Yeah, I'm never bored.
No. And like, I don't know where I'm gonna live, 20 years from now, but I really hope it's Colorado.
Western Colorado specifically.
Yeah.
I think you can find it's like right now, like we're right here in Glenwood Springs today, but like Swann Clinic and Exploration Kids, like we have programs and clinics in Glenwood Springs, Rifle, Parachute, Grand Junction, Clifton, Montrose, Delta, Gunnison. It's like this beautiful little circle, and each town has its own like personality. And so like if you want the training program, if you're like, oh, I'm really interested in like learning this neurodiversity affirming like treatment and working with like other people in different disciplines, it's like, and then I can choose which part of Western Colorado I want to be in.
Yeah.
Like, do I want to be like really in the mountains in Gunnison and just like lean into Crested Butte and just, the cattlemen's days and just, the beautiful fly fishing, or do I want to be down in like Montrose and Delta and like they have gorgeous farms and like Olathe the sweet corn and like, you're not far from Telluride, and then Junction's a bigger city, so like there's a Sam's Club and all these other things. It's like now I got my city vibes, and they have a great airports. Like the Telluride, the airport in Montrose is the one they use for Telluride, and the one in Junction too. It's a great regional airport. I prefer that over the Atlanta airport and the Denver airport any day of the week because I can show up like 45 minutes before my flight and just hop on. It's great.
No, that's the best part of it. I mean, granted, I went to like the Atlanta airport like all my life, so I love it.
Yeah,
and I can get
it's the best people watching.
Yes. Great. But like, I love the ease of the small town airports. It's great.
I love a regional airport. No, and then you're like, when you get here in Glenwood, like we have gold medal rivers for fishing, and there's rafting, there's Beaver Creek and Aspen and Sunlight Mountains close by, and you can do all this skiing and snowboarding, and I mean, the hiking is just incredible. So I just love that like there are so many things, and like you know your neighbors, but you don't know them too much. You still have some anonymity, but there's just space to breathe out here. And it's just it's the most beautiful place. But you're right. Atlanta will always be home. Georgia will always be home.
Yeah.
We'll always have that debate over Palisades peaches versus Georgia peaches.
Oh, that's a hard one.
It's a hard one. Georgia peaches are smaller and sweeter, but Palisades, they're delicious. It's so good. No, I love it out here. So I'm glad you're here and you're getting to experience a new part of the world.
Me too.
And we get to share this special place with you.
Yeah. I just love being here.
Good.
Glad I could share it with you all.
Thanks for sharing your talents with us. What I think is so exciting about you having spent your summer at Swann Clinic, and we're so honored that you have, is, we're a behavioral health center of excellence, which means, we've met the highest standards of accreditation in terms of outcomes, in terms of program development, in terms of supervision. So we're an accredited internship, and an accredited clinical practice. And even our telehealth is accredited. And we've worked so hard to make sure that we're following the best standards of care. And I think the foundation of that is that we really follow those assent-based practices. Let's talk about assent. What is assent for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah. So the way that I've always understood assent is that it's somebody's kind of like behavioral it's their way of showing through their behaviors that they want to participate in an activity or something like that.
So like with verbal speaking, with like verbal individuals, like we can say, yeah, I agree to do this.
Right. I want to do this. I want to do that. But like maybe with somebody who's nonverbal, they are not going to tell you that. And like, we even have written in like our learners' plans, like what it looks like when they withdraw assent so that we know and that we can stop whatever activity that we're doing like immediately, so that they can get back to where we want them to be, which is happy. And so like that can look like, they'll turn their body away from you, or, they'll sit down and just sit there
and not want to go anywhere.
Yeah. Or, maybe they'll cry with or without tears, like it can look like so many different things.
Right.
And it's really just kind of like based on your observation of them.
Right. So when we're talking about assent at Swann Clinic, what we're really talking about is honoring and respecting the boundaries. When kids assert their boundaries, we're honoring and respecting that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're righting some of the past wrongs with ABA, which is we're really listening to what learners are telling us, and respecting those boundaries so that they have a better experience and that we're honoring the dignity and integrity that they deserve and need.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we are going to debunk some myths in psychology. Let's go.
Okay.
So you have to have a PhD in order to do anything meaningful in the field of psychology.
No. Absolutely not.
I would say some of the best therapists that I've ever worked with are master's level therapists. I mean, they really hone that craft in grad school. I think that's absolutely not true. You do not need a doctorate degree. You better really want that doctorate in order to go through with it. No, that's silly. You can really make an impact and have a huge difference in people's lives, no matter where your terminal degree is, whether it's in high school, whether it's in college, whether it's a master's, whether it's in, a doctorate. The more education you have, the more responsibilities you have, but then, with heavy is the head that wears the crown. So that's a lot of responsibility too. But I know many people who own their own practices who do not have doctorates. And even some who don't even have a bachelor's. So I think there's so many meaningful things that you can do in psychology that you don't need a doctorate to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So another myth is that getting a degree in or working in psychology is easy.
Okay, so I feel like I have a particularly interesting view on that, because we've established, I go to an engineering school. It's primary focus is engineering. And I feel like that's one of the things that I hear a lot is that psychology is easy and you're just sitting there talking to people, and I'm like, no. And I'll hear a lot they'll comment about how many hours it takes for my degree to finish my degree versus theirs, and I'm like, just because my hours are different than yours doesn't mean that it's any easier. And I've even talked about what it means to have, or what it looks like, or what a autistic evaluation looks like. And especially with littles. And I was explaining to a friend of mine, I'm like, it's so involved. I have to look, or whoever's doing it has to look for their eye contact. How are they responding when somebody blocks their toys?
How do they initiate activities, respond to activities?
Yeah. Do they respond to their name? All of these things. What kind of behaviors are they doing? Are they stimming at any point?
You're taking in everything.
Yeah. And it's it's really not that easy, because you have to observe.
It's so fast-paced. And for all of those engineers out there, talk about variables, the amount of variables involved in working with human beings. I mean, we're talking about their medical, biopsychosocial, trauma histories, their cognitive histories, the way that their bodies and brains and minds and experiences are made up, infinite variables. So there's just no way that you can just cookie cutter this. It is very individualized and specialized.
So another myth that we kind of hear a lot is that therapy is always the same, or that, you know, it's just like sitting on the couch talking.
I had a professor once who gave me some sage advice. She was like, you should only say about 10% of what you're thinking. And I think that's very important in therapy, but it's not the same. Every single office is set up differently. Every single practice is set up differently. It's a reflection of that therapist, their worldview, their theoretical orientation, and who they are as a practitioner and clinician. And so it is okay to try out different therapists and to find the right fit. I think a lot of people, they'll go into therapy one time and they'll be like, therapy's not for me. Mm-hmm. It might have been that the therapist wasn't the right fit, the right match. And we know that that therapeutic relationship is the biggest factor for change and has the biggest predictive factor for outcomes. Yeah. Because the more that you buy into and trust in and work with your therapist, the more likely you are to apply those interventions and utilize them in your everyday life. And so that relationship is so important. And I would encourage anyone to be brave enough to say, I'm going to try this out for a couple sessions. And if I just don't feel like we have the right vibe or it's not the right fit, it's okay for me to ask for a referral to another therapist.
Right.
And to see if I can find the right one, because what is most important is that you get the help and the support that you need. Yeah. But no, it's different everywhere. And I don't know that I've ever just sat for an entire session. Last night we were wearing wigs and playing tea shop. So no, that's not the case. No, I don't do that with everyone. No, just my special friends. So Anna, one myth that we hear is that mental illness is caused by chemical imbalances.
I think that's tricky to like really pinpoint, like as like a definitive factor. Like obviously we do have all of these different chemicals in our brain, and you know they are part of, you know, what makes our brain work, but they're not the end all be all. And there are other factors that you have to consider outside of just like chemical imbalances. And like maybe you don't have a chemical imbalance and you still have a mental illness. Like that happens. Well, I think you have like experiences that can impact you and that can lead you down a certain path. And
for sure, it's that nature versus nurture kind of discussion. Yeah, there is an impact with our biology, and our biology impacts our psychosocial experiences, and so that too can impact again our biology. So it's this like circular kind of process. We know that depression changes the way that our brain works, and we know that the way that our brain works can also change the way that we interact with people. And then I think it also just doesn't take into effect that, like, you know, trauma is real and we have trauma experiences, and early developmental experiences really do have such an important impact on the way that our brains are shaped. So it's not that simplistic and reductionistic at all.
There have been like so many theories in psychology about like why something happens, or, you know, why we get a certain mental illness. And like one that I've really kind of like gravitated to personally, and one that we've learned a lot about in school is psychosocial. Mm-hmm. You've got your biology component, that's really important. You've got your psychology important, you know, all of your cognition, that's really important. And then you've got your social, what's going on in your environment. Like it all adds up and it's all really, really important.
So many factors, variables.
Yeah. Another myth is that being neurodivergent or neurospicy is only a bad thing.
I feel like I get to address this so often in my practice, and I'm so fortunate to do that because I have a lot of families that come and bring their kids in, and we get to have this conversation about having a neurodiverse child. And one of the things I love doing is being able to help them understand how being neurodiverse is it's like a gift. It's a superpower. You get to see the world, not only when you are a parent, you get to see the world through your child's eyes, but now you get to see it through an even more unique perspective. And what's so great about being neurodiverse, and I listen to a lot of neurodiverse voices in social media and follow them in various realms, and happen to be married to and have given birth to neurospicy individuals. And what I love about that is that I get to see the ways that it just really brings so much like joy and like just like really cool experiences to my life, and how I can like learn from these perspectives. I've never seen someone who can pick up on and read an environment like an autistic individual. I mean, they see things I would never see. Autistic individuals are so tuned into the moment. They give every aspect of themselves in the moment to whatever it is that is in front of them. And imagine having that kind of passion and that kind of like enjoyment and love for something that you give all of yourself to it.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of energy. And so anytime that they share that with you, like it's a gift. And being able to think about things in complex and different ways. We know that 40% of CEOs have ADHD, 30% have dyslexia, like right around there. And I would, even say that there are a lot of undiagnosed CEOs and entrepreneurs out there who they're in the positions they're in because they can see the world in ways that other people can't. They understand outcomes and the systems in ways that, neurotypicals or holistics cannot. All right. Well, I want to thank you, Anna, for being here on the Swann's Nest, and we appreciate you coming and joining us. It's always good to see a Georgia Tech student around. If you want to check us out on LinkedIn or visit our websites at explorationkidstherapy.com or swannclinic.com, we would love to have you check out our programs, our internship opportunities, and the services that we provide in the area. Thanks so much for joining us.